Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Maybe you're up for a midnight snack, but welcome to episode 5 of the live Learn Azure Hybrid Cloud Study Hall. It always gets me. And we're going to plan and deploy Arc-enabled servers. My name is Amy Colyer. I'm a senior cloud solutions advocate at Microsoft. And I'm so excited to have John Joyner with me, a super big time MVP.
Thank you very much, Amy. It's great to be here. If these are the introductions, I'm a 15-year Microsoft MVP and heavily a fan of Microsoft management technologies. And
and your enthusiasm for the Arc platform itself it's contagious. I'll have to say that. So,
thank you. We're warning people. I'm going to get excited.
That's good. We have live demos. You can follow along with us. You can scan that QR code or go to the https://aka.ms/learnlive-2022-0428A. So join us. You can join the chat on YouTube and Twitch today, I believe, to ask us any questions. We also have a great moderator. Say hi to Michael Godfrey. He's another senior customer engineer from Microsoft. So thank you, Michael, for helping us out. And let's see why my slide's not progressing. Come on. Okay. So again, we're going over the plan and deploy Azure Arc-enabled servers at scale. It's part of a series. You can go back to the introduction to get started. We're excited to have you with us. You can complete the exercises as we go along, as John shows them, or you can come back and watch on demand. So again, there's the URL, and you can scan the URL code to join in. And then we're also going to have a poll of the questions, so you can interactively answer the questions with us. Make sure we taught you well. And if not, you can give us, throw tomatoes at us. But hopefully you learned something from this session. So what we're going to go over, we're going to understand Arc's built-in supplemental security functions, because now you're enabling servers that are maybe on premises or in someone else's cloud, and now you're bringing Azure functionality to that. So what does that mean? We're also going to evaluate different deployment avenues. John will show us like deploying to one server versus deploying to many. So that'll be really cool. And then best practices for Arc-enabled servers, like governance, policy, RBAC. Anything you want to add, John?
Yeah, we're going to do a end-to-end demonstration of the at-scale deployment. So while we're gonna touch on the one, doing one at a time, when we'll acknowledge that that was the topic of the session the other day, and we're going to dive right into the at-scale. So we're going to have a deep dive in that. We're also going to have fun at the end. We're going to be crafting a Azure Monitor alert to let us know when our Azure Arc servers go down, or have a problem communicating with Azure.
Great. Sounds fun. Can't wait. So our introduction, as it implies, Arc kind of bridges the gap between your on-premises and cloud environments, kind of bringing you that single pane of glass and allowing you to use the Azure platform like Sentinel or Azure Blob Storage, bring those services closer to your on-premises or other cloud environments.
The thing that gets me excited, and I added the comment on this slide about the premise of Azure Arc being compelling, and it's the why of Azure Arc, and it's for me it's the economic appeal. It is the unstoppable appeal of cloudy fundamentals like on-demand, user-directed self-service, granular chargeback, pooled resources. Those characteristics of cloud computing that have enabled the cloud to thrive and grow and become a dominant force in computing on our planet. Azure Arc is saying, let's examine the management technologies that are part of that, and let people take advantage of them. So it's sort of the next, almost could have been predicted, right? As cloudy technologies move ever outward and ever upward, in the IT stack, those methodologies that are themselves cloudy or rooted in those cloudy principles that are efficient and economic, and scalable and secure.
Right.
It's not just a gimmick. It is Azure Arc is an outgrowth of the unstoppable forces behind cloud computing.
Right.
And I tell my customers that to acknowledge this and to start as rapidly as possible to migrate to Arc-based methodologies, which are emulating Microsoft's proven hypercloud, hyperscale management techniques, emulating them and using them on premise in your smaller environments. Even if you have 1,000 servers, you don't have how many servers does Microsoft have? 10 million? I don't know. But Azure works at the multi tens of millions of scale. And so if you
Right.
have 10 servers or 100 servers or 1,000 servers, if you manage them the same way that Microsoft is managing its tens of millions, aren't you're not going to have to invent any wheels. You have
Right.
to take very little risk. So that's why I'm really excited about the program.
Yeah, and as we've seen, no one's picking one cloud or staying on premises. They're combining, I have some servers that have to stay on premise because of, my data has to stay here, or we're just not ready. So Arc really enables you to at least bring those cloudy services, like you said, I like that, to your on-premises networks, and also utilize that security functionality that, yeah, Microsoft has put years and years. You have, teams looking at, Defender, and you have Sentinel, and to bring that all together for your either other clouds or on-premise
Hmm.
servers, it's like, that's amazing. So it's great. I
Absolutely.
love it. Yeah.
This is a slide. The next two slides I added, right?
Yeah.
Because uh, actually, I just wrote a book on this topic at Azure Arc. There's a book available, co-written by Microsoft Steve Buchanan. I think you have a copy of it. I actually
Yes, I
don't even.
did.
I don't even have one to hold up. But
Shameless
this
plug.
this drawing is from the book and illustrates like what you're getting with Azure Arc. And Azure Arc is essentially free. Um, it's officially totally free, but there's often micro charges, sometimes even just a few pennies a month,
Mhm.
associated with collecting the data. But it's essentially free.
Right.
And with that essential free, you're getting all the below the iceberg stuff, in this picture. You're all of that is taken care of for you. And who doesn't want to worry 60% fewer of your core requirements and
Right.
offload them to Microsoft for essentially pennies. So it's an exciting time to be involved in management, because we, for the first time in a couple decades, or some people, in some people's careers,
Yeah.
there's a chance to refactor
Hmm.
monitoring and management uh, in a transformative way.
Right. No, that's great. Yeah, it is. It's actually exciting. It's weird to say that, but it's exciting to
See,
be
I
in
told you.
management. Like, wow. But yeah, now you have governance and policies in place, and you don't have to worry about it. And I always hated that part of, on the customer side. So let Azure help you with that, and, with policy and updates. That's great. So, and
I think
then,
and the next slide is the second of two slides, or two illustrations that are mine.
Mhm.
And this slide shows what we're going to be showing in the demos and talking about graphically.
Mhm.
The Azure Arc agents at the bottom and center, that represents a computer or an AKS cluster running
Right.
anywhere. You mentioned on-premise, Amy, but I'm also seeing a lot of cross cloud. A large
Oh, wow.
customer that may they may really enjoy Azure and have a large estate there, but they happen to have some apps that run in Amazon, right? They have
Mhm.
60 servers in Azure, but they have an 8 server app that's running in Amazon, right?
Okay.
And in addition to whatever else they may have. And
Right.
Azure Arc lets them see all those machines, all those virtual machines, all those workloads in all the places in Azure, in their on-prem. If we get a chance to talk more about Azure Arc for VMware for private cloud, so that it's just an ever expanding story of bringing into the Microsoft management umbrella all of your workloads wherever they are.
Yeah, I like to call it that magical single pane of glass where you can just look in and you see all your servers, whether they're in
It's a
Google.
cliche, but it's the truth, right?
It's finally happening.
It really is. It really is that. You know what we do? Instead of saying single pane of glass, we say source of truth. That's kind of like another way to another spin on it. So we have our servers wherever they are, and the first thing that you see in this diagram is policy. You see two initiatives acting on the Azure Arc resources to do stuff, and we're gonna take a deep. We're gonna do a deep dive into policy, which is gonna be one of the first things I show you in the demo. We're gonna have policies that act on our Azure Arc servers, and the policies tell the Azure Arc servers to do things. And the principal functionality in Azure Arc is, and this is a takeaway for everybody in this session, is if you have to think, well, describe in the elevator pitch technically, what is Azure Arc? It's Azure policy using the extensions method to install software and configure machines. So what does an extensions method mean? You're going to understand that intimately here in a second. Right. But it is a feature of both the Azure Arc Agent and a feature of the machines that are in Azure. So for over a decade, all of your virtual machines in Azure have had a thing called extensions. If you may never looked. If you have Azure VMs and you haven't poked around, maybe you never looked. But there's a feature called extensions that have always been there for Azure VMs, and it's an out-of-band communication method that the Azure control plane, the Azure Resource Manager control plane, uses to communicate with the machine to install and configure management utilities. And the genius behind Azure Arc is that there's a little piece of software. Again, we're going to see it in the demo. And the little piece of software that you put on your on-premises server emulates the extensions management capability that your Azure VMs have. So the policy says, hey, you're an Azure VM. Hey, you're an Azure Arc server. I don't care. You're a Windows computer. I have this policy that says Windows computers need to have this and this and this. And it works equally on your Windows servers, wherever they are in any cloud, at any scale.
Right. So, and Linux, right?
Absolutely. That's we're going to see the four populations: Windows and Linux in Azure, not in Azure. Those are our four populations of servers, and we serve them all equally and extremely well. So, returning to our diagram, we have our Azure Arc servers. We have policies that install solutions and agents, and that in the upper half of the diagram, we see a log analytics agent. We see a log analytics agent reporting to a log analytics workspace that has Azure automation solutions installed, like update management and change tracking, right? And we can connect to Azure Defender for Cloud and Microsoft Sentinel and all the security stack as well. And I believe that this diagram shows that we're attaching at the security side and at the monitoring side to our Azure Arc servers wherever they are, and then doing stuff. And that's Azure Arc, right?
Right. We're bringing the Azure goodness to you, wherever you may be.
So thank you. Those two slides were my personal contribution to establish relevance. This is a big strategic thing. And to start people, to start bridging the gap between concepts and actual things, actual software artifacts, which are demonstrated by this slide, and we're going to see in the demo.
Right. And it's really important for people to realize, again, you might not have a cloud migration policy, but you can still utilize Azure's power to manage your on-premises servers, or, so it could be that first step into cloud for you if you're still, rolling on premises,
When you brought up or when again the Microsoft, you can have a business requirement to use, for example, Amazon. You can have a business requirement to use it in some way, but that doesn't mean you can't benefit from this world-class best security solution that we're talking about today, right? You don't have to choose between Amazon's and Microsoft's, or Microsoft's and somebody else's. You use the one that you like, which is, if you're a Microsoft customer and you like the solution, it doesn't matter where your workloads are. And so you're actually then more free to cite those workloads on other things like cost or function and fit. And
Mhm.
and as far as staying in your single pane of glass, you achieve that.
Yeah, it's exciting. So we'll go on. I actually added this slide here. So, but
Oh,
we
exciting.
reiterate. Yeah, really exciting. But yeah, you're getting that single control plane with Azure Arc, whether it's just infrastructure or services, and then it's bringing you closer to those Azure services, like you already said, Microsoft Defender for cloud. Or I guess if you're actually using it on a server, though, would it be Microsoft Defender, the other agent for server? I don't know.
Well,
I
actually,
think
okay,
that's.
we Defender for Cloud is
Mhm.
the parent, and then there's
Yeah.
workload protections.
Okay.
There's 10 or 12 workload protections, and the one that's relevant to Azure Arc servers is the workload protection for servers. So
Okay.
it's sometimes abbreviated as Defender for Server,
Okay.
but I think its official long long name is Defender for Cloud Workload Protection for Servers.
We like the long names. That makes sense. That's good because it comes up all the time, the security options, and is my data secure? And as we'll learn, the Azure Arc agent only sends metadata up to Azure. You're not sending data across the public internet. So you are secure. And then, oh, what happened? Here we go. Again, just another reiteration of you have your Azure Arc enabled infrastructure, and then you can go out and use enabled data services and machine learning and the app services, function apps, um, whether it's on premises, VMware, Google Cloud, AWS, and then bringing in, again, I've always been brought up with having to have consistency and governance and security. So change control, role-based access controls, group policy, resource groups. So it's bringing, again, all that power into one consistent platform. Well, we kind of touched this, but here we go through the module. What is Azure Arc-enabled servers and its capabilities? And we mentioned you can use
Mhm.
Microsoft Defender for cloud to improve your security, Microsoft Sentinel for threat intelligence. Anything you want to add to that, John?
Well, I just
You've
I want
already.
to say that we are gonna an objective that Amy and I have during this 90 minutes is to go through the Learn module, right?
Yes.
So we're going to pay attention to the uh, 8 modules in there,
Mhm,
and we're going to make sure that we touch on the content on all of them. So for some of them, we'll have more chat, we'll have demos or peeks at the features,
mhm.
and others we may not have content on, but we'll make sure that we talk about them so you'll know to go research it further.
Yeah.
The objective of this whole uh, series, is about learning,
Mhm.
and I like learning. So, and I just want to say that, although we've been chatting, we've been free associating. Now, Amy, I don't know about you, I'm going to have my eyes down on
Nice.
what
Yes.
we're supposed to communicate and make sure we get it out
Right.
in terms of what an Azure Arc agent is in terms of its capabilities. We've talked about that, and we've talked about it like in from 3 different angles,
Right.
and we're going to keep talking about it. So the thing that the Learn module goes into next is an overview of the connected machine agent,
Mhm.
and this might be the first demo area. Do you have the? Can you go to the overview of connected machine agent?
Yes.
There we go. So there's these 3 bulleted items on this slide correspond to 3 services and processes that
Mhm.
exist on your Azure Arc servers. It's the same number of processes and this essentially the same named processes, whether it is a Windows server or whether it is a Linux server. Linux servers have 3 daemons. Windows computers have 3 services, and the 3 services and the 3 daemons, they do this essentially the same functions that are described in this slide. And if the first thing we'll do is uh, I'm ready to show a demo of
Mhm.
here's now we're taking that from the slide to reality. We're looking at we're looking at it as at an Azure Arc server, okay?
Mhm.
And so, what are those? What are the services look like? What does the software look like? So the first thing I think that I'll show you is here in the add remove programs. So
Okay.
this right here, Azure Connected Machine Agent, that is the Azure Arc Agent. A few minutes ago when I was talking about Azure VMs having this out-of-band communication utility that principally functions through the extensions mechanism. And the Azure Connected Machine Agent, which is the little piece of software that gets installed on your non-Azure servers and turns them into Azure Arc servers, it is this connected machine agent that is doing that same type of communication, that same type of out-of-band communication with the Azure control plane, and then using extensions to get the work done. So when we get into the second big demo coming up, which is the end-to-end at scale deployment with a script and service principal, the end product of that onboarding activity, it's a script that when you run that script, what happens is the Azure Connected Machine Agent gets installed on the machine. So this piece of software that you see in add and remove programs, this is the one and only agent you may ever have to install on your Windows and Linux servers, because once your servers have the Azure Connected Machine Agent, all of their other current and future Microsoft agent-based and utility-based functions are going to come through the Azure Arc Agent, through the Connected Machine Agent. You will not do manual software installs of all of the other things. An example would be right here, the Microsoft Monitoring Agent is one of the pieces of software that's installed by the extension method. And in fact, right here, the Qualys Cloud Security Agent is another one. And the dependency agent is another one. So, in fact, today during the demo, you're going to see, fingers crossed everything works, you're going to see that we install the Connected Machine Agent. And because we have policies in the subscription, in the resource group where we're going to create the Azure Arc server, the dependency agent and the Microsoft Monitoring Agent are going to get automatically installed very rapidly, hands off, and show up here in add remove programs, even though we didn't actually go and install them on the machine. The Azure control plane did the work for us. So that the one thing is to communicate how the software presents itself, and what, it's, again, you're going to look for the Azure Connected Machine Agent, and then the rest, it's going to, the other software titles, it's going to look at, it's going to take care of, and if you installed a piece of software with the virtual machine agent through policy, the proper way to unwind that is to uninstall the extension. If you uninstall the extension, then install the Microsoft Monitoring Agent, inside the Azure Arc server, it uninstalls the Microsoft Monitoring Agent. You don't want to interfere with the automatic mode, So that's the one thing I wanted to show you inside this machine. Here's the services view. Now you'll recall the slide that we were at before we dropped into this demo. It had 3 bullets on 3 services that I said that on your Linux machines, there's corresponding daemons. Okay, here's the first one of the 3.
Oh, that metadata. Yeah. So it gives the identity into Azure, right? So
yeah. This is literally almost exactly what's running in your Azure machines, right? In your actual Azure machines. And then the other 2 pieces of software are down here under guest. The Arc service and the extension service. The extension service is very important. That's the main functionality. That's the main instrumentality of Azure Arc, is the extension service. So there you have it. You have the Arc service and the extension service doing work on the local machine, and then the Azure metadata service. That's creating that object in Azure that's representing your Azure Arc machine. So there, I wanted to show those 2 pieces of an act. So what is an Azure Arc server? You just looked at one. It has 3 services, and it has some software. One of the pieces of software you installed. The other pieces of software were automatically installed by the Azure Arc Agent. And so along the same theme of what is an Azure Arc server, I've pivoted to a view of the Azure portal. And we're looking at the Azure Arc servers blade. So this is a list of servers, Azure Arc servers. And I've got one enabled, host 1, and that happened to be the machine you were just looking at. This is the actual machine that we were looking at. And you can see in the extensions area of this Azure Arc server, there's 5 extensions. They all have a success status. And so, like, how did that dependency agent get on that machine? How did that Qualys agent get on that machine? How did the Microsoft monitoring agent get on that machine? How is that machine connected to Defender for Cloud and getting that built-in Defender for endpoint protection? All of this stuff was done. All these extensions were done automatically and by policy, right? I keep talking about policy. When we look at an individual Azure Arc server and we look at the policies blade, we can see the policies applied to this machine. This is the policy this is the Azure Enable Azure Monitor initiative that installs the dependency agent and the Microsoft monitoring agent. If we go into the details of this initiative, the initiative has 10 policies inside, and the 10 policies together cover the Windows, the Linux, the on-prem, and the in Azure. So this one initiative that contains 10 policies is a key initiative, and we've got this same initiative assigned to the resource group where we're going to install our Azure Arc server in a few moments. And so you're going to see this initiative in action on our new Arc machine, pushing those agents. Back to our to cut just a couple of other high-level points when we talk about what is an Azure Arc server. It's fundamentally, I'm gonna do something crazy. I'm gonna click on JSON view. I'm gonna this is your Azure Arc server's metadata in Azure. When again, helping you understand what is an Azure Arc server. Well, it's in addition to being a server not in Azure, either a physical server or a virtual machine in your VMware plant or a virtual machine in Amazon. In addition to being that, it is also a resource in Azure. And what does the resource in Azure look like? You're looking at it. It's JSON, which is the language, the language that Azure Resource Manager uses. And basically everything in your Azure subscription, if you didn't know this, is defined by a piece of JSON code. And this is the JSON code for an Azure Arc server. You can see, for example, this is the piece of JSON code letting us know that this extension is installed. Like when we click on the extensions tab and we look at Microsoft Monitoring Agent succeeded installed. How did this blade know that? Well, it went to Azure Resource Manager and it read that instance of code that I just showed you, and that is the Azure Arc server in Azure. It's a piece of code that represents a server, abstracted from the actual server wherever in the world it may be. So that's another answer to the question, what is an Azure Arc server? So some other things that we see, well, it's a securely managed server. Defender for Cloud, Defender for Servers turned on. Look, I have complete integration of Defender for Cloud recommendations, findings, incidents, if they are any, here on the blade with the server, exactly as you would have for an Azure virtual machine.
That was really cool.
So that's what an Azure Arc server looks like.
Mm-hmm. So it's the agent to deploy all other agents. I like to say one agent to rule them all.
It's been said before, and it's accurate. It's an accurate.
Darn, I thought I would be the first.
So why don't you? We've got a slide that if we go back,
sure,
Amy, we've got a diagram, and then we've got a very nice chart.
You want the diagram of the connected machine agent?
Well, I mean, it's no. If I'm just looking at module 2,
Okay.
after the 3 bullets, there was a diagram, and then a chart.
The testing? Or...
The the unit 2 of 8, overview of connected machine agent.
Yeah, I have that up. Yeah.
Okay, I'm still seeing my screen.
Oh, okay. Hook us up, Dwight. Thank you.
There we go. And maybe the next portion of the document. There we go.
Yeah, the overview. That it's nice to see which ports it's talking on. 443.
Yeah, this is again a drill down into those 3 services. Remember, we showed
Mhm.
we had the Azure. We had the services started with the word Azure up at the top of our services list, which was the metadata instance that's actually talking to Azure as an Azure object. And then we had the 2 guest services. We had the guest configuration service and the guest extension manager.
Right.
And you can see the that the uh, instance metadata service is talking to one part of Azure, which is your Azure Resource Manager. That's where your Azure Resource Record is created, and then the other pieces are talking to the guest resource provider. That's saying, oh, you have an extension to install. You have a job to do. Go and
Right.
install it. That all of the on the right hand side of the diagram, we highlight that Azure Active Directory is providing the security underpinnings of this.
Oh,
And when we get to the next demo and we create our service principal, and we assign an Azure RBAC based role to that service principal, that will be clear. That's what we will be doing.
yeah. Oh, there we
Um,
go. I was trying to do the highlight for you.
Okay, let's see some other intelligence from this diagram. When we look at the Azure admin in the upper right-hand corner,
Yeah, over here.
that it's highlighting different tools, different ways to get into the system and use it. You can use the Azure portal, you can use the GUI. There's also the Azure CLI and Azure PowerShell, and that which you can run both of them from command shell. We'll be
Mhm.
using command shell later, and then Azure SDK would represent using a REST API to communicate with Azure. So for larger enterprises that are once you start using this and you realize, wow, I have so much valuable data, so much inventory data in that Azure Arc has collected
Mhm.
at low to no cost for me. So how can I use that data? And if you have medium to more advanced skills, it is extremely well documented how to communicate at the API level with Azure, and you can connect your troubleshooting tools, your ticketing tools, your systems management tools via the REST API. So there's you have human friendly, code friendly ways to access this data and interact with and use. Remember the bottom of the iceberg.
Right.
You have a lot of ways to use the bottom of the iceberg.
That's
Great.
great. A lot of options for people who are either, yeah, more versed in API, programming, or people who just want, the basics. I'm a, click GUI type of person. You can use it too, go through the portal.
Oh, it's a huge difference
Yeah.
to competing products because you have the entire universe of Microsoft solutions available. Azure-based microservice solutions using logic apps, function apps,
Yeah.
runbooks. It's literally infinite. The extensibility, and
Mhm.
it is not a black box. It's not monolithic. You're not at the mercy of the app, of any particular app team
Mhm.
you know to get the data that you need to be to achieve the level of visibility and security and control and monitoring that you need. You have very mature tools in Azure to use. That's why don't we go into the next section? Let's go into
Sure. Yeah.
the capabilities area.
Yeah. Let's go. Okay. So yeah, the capabilities, which we've, mentioned a lot,
So yeah, we
but
the document has like a table. It starts with Azure Resource and then Defender for Cloud. Is that in the slides?
in this one.
There we go. I think there we go. That's the table. Yeah. So this table would represent remember back to my Visio with the icons, and I said the upper
Mhm.
half, that represents solutions.
Right.
So these are solutions. These are instrumentalities and functionalities that are available in Azure, uh, that extend down and you fully leverage in the Azure Arc scenario. So as an Azure, the first one, Azure Resource, it makes your Windows and Linux servers Azure resources, even if they're not in Azure. And like,
Mhm.
why would you care? What is the value there? Single pane of glass. I can now use Azure Resource Graph and Azure Log Analytics queries to return a list of all of my servers or all of my apps in whatever cloud of
Right.
whatever OS. I can tag my servers, regardless of OS or location. I can control security access. I can assess costs, right? All of
Mhm.
these are things that come free with snapping into the Azure Resource Manager model. And it's maybe this is a geeky, this is the geeky part. It's the abstracted part, but it's like when it's putting all of your ducks in a row so that you can see them all in one row.
Well,
Why
especially if
would
it's your job to manage it, this makes it easier. That's why it's exciting for me because it'd be like, my boss saying, "Hey, make sure you have everything monitored. We're not going over cost. Everything's secure." Well, you got stuff over here and stuff over here. Oh God, I got to log in over here for my
exactly?
center, and then now I got to log into Google. Now I got to log into Azure. And
It's the
create
single,
reports.
so you can say to your bosses or auditors, what is your single source of truth?
Yeah.
Azure, my Azure Resource Manager.
Right.
The templates, the code in my Azure subscription represent all of my IT estate, and that would be accurate.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got Defender for Cloud, fantastic integration. Defender for Cloud for servers comes, it delivers Defender for Endpoint. It delivers the Qualys Vulnerability Agent. It delivers adaptive application and network hardening. Stuff that if you enable for example, the adaptive application hardening, once you've gone through a learning period and enabled the feature and turned it on, it will act, 24/7 automatically. It will block a new app from running, right?
Yes.
And it's almost hands off. You just have to purchase the license for Defender for Cloud and say, I want to use this feature, and turn it on, and boom, you've now enabled a huge protection, right?
Yeah.
So Defender for Cloud has many features, and you bring it and extend it to your servers anywhere. This, I think, is one of the biggest selling points of the whole
Definitely.
Microsoft solution right now, because if you're a big IT admin and you have servers in Google, and you have servers in Amazon, you have servers in Hyper-V, you have servers in VMware, you have
Mhm.
physical servers, and you're like, these are huge vectors for malware and bad actors. Like, what can I do to keep my job? What can I do to keep my company?
Right.
Right? Well, deploy Defender for Cloud across all of your resources everywhere. It's extremely credible. It's extremely effective.
Yes. And you're
Um,
just adding to your tool set. You already have a tool set, for maintaining your on-premises environment, but now, you're just adding to it with the Azure Arc capabilities, like we're showing with policy and monitor. And so you're just kind of adding to your all your weaponry against the bad
yeah,
guy.
you don't take anything away from what you have. It's
Exactly.
all
And
it's
it's
all
not
additive.
replacing your job, it's enhancing it, if anything.
The next two items, the Sentinel and Azure Monitor, that's your security centric and your monitoring and configuration centric solutions for Microsoft. Again, fantastic, perfect support for both platforms. Um, at my company, we're a huge growth in part in our company in the last couple of years has been managed Sentinel instances. And when we go out to customers and they have machines in Amazon and in
Mhm.
Azure and on premise, I mean, it's very rare the customer that has only one place where their servers are. They're almost always a hybrid model. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
to be able to roll out, going to the next bullet item, Azure policy, to be
Mhm.
able to deploy a single policy to an enterprise with many thousands of machines in many dozens of clouds, one policy,
Mhm.
consistency. It's I mean, I wouldn't want to do it any other way.
Right.
Now that I know about this way, Azure Automation is absolutely I'm a huge fan of integrating Azure Automation with your log analytics instance,
Oh, got it.
enabling automatic deployment of the Azure Automation tools. There's one that is free, which is the update management, and this is basically every Microsoft customer, big or small, should have this turned on. It is literally free. Uh, well, if you're not using any other services, I'll let you know. We did research on it. It comes out to between 20 and 40 cents a server per month, between 20 and 40 cents per server per month.
Wow.
For,
To update the
for
servers?
if
Oh, wow.
to run, if you deploy Arc and Monitor, and the
Mhm.
only thing, and you're very careful to deploy nothing else
Right.
but the automation solution, just the raw cost to move the digits around is 40 cents a month a server.
That's
So
great.
the everyone, if you that then can then become your updating solution for your company,
Mhm.
or it can become an out of band check. It can become an out of band check that your primary patch system is working.
Right.
And like, why would anyone not deploy that? They just don't know about it. That's my attitude as I'm trying to evangelize
That's why
this
you're
stuff.
here.
Thank you.
Preach the good word.
So that's, I really like that list of, because like,
Yeah.
what do you do with Azure Arc? What do you get from Azure Arc? How do you save money? How do you even save your job or your company with Azure Arc? That's what makes it exciting. And not that it's a free control plane proven at hyperscale. Right. No, wait, wow, it can, like, it can help me out so materially. I like to show that.
Yeah.
Right
I
on.
mean, we're about halfway through our time, so if we wanna start getting into the good stuff like demos and
Let's do the good
yeah.
stuff. Let's do the good stuff.
So we're gonna test the Azure Arc-enabled server capabilities using an Azure VM by tricking it into not
Mhm.
knowing it's an Azure VM. So this is a
Yep.
good way to practice at home if you don't have any, anything out of
Exactly.
band, you don't want to pay for an EC2 instance, you don't have anything on premises you want to work with, you can use an Azure VM and uninstall agents, right? And then make it an Arc-enabled VM
Yes.
and
We're gonna,
bring it back in.
the uh the two major things that we're going to demo, and thanks for reminding me that we're halfway. Isn't it amazing how the time is going?
It
I
does. It
love
goes
it.
by fast. No, yeah, no problem.
The two things you're going to see are the true meat of this module.
Mm,
How to deploy Azure Arc at scale, and you're going to learn that we can easily get this done in the remaining half. And I'm going to show you, when we look at the learn module, like, the most complicated parts, or maybe the hardest parts to imagine, are the two I'm going to show you. And
okay.
they are how to take an Azure machine and turn it into a simulated Arc machine.
Mhm.
Which until to be honest, Amy, until I prepared for this learn module, I had never done this. I knew about it, but I
Yeah, I know
thought,
it's not supported. You don't
I
wanna do this,
know.
but
Yeah,
it's a good way
I
to
know. I'm
learn.
too much of a purist. I
Yeah,
poo-pooed it, right? But it's
right.
actually, you guys are going to see it live in a second. It's super easy. It's
Yeah.
super fast. It's super convenient. And when you're first learning about Azure Arc, you know, even if you have a private cloud, in your office that you connect to via VPN or whatever,
Mhm.
even that's a little bit of overhead. You got to provision it. You got to have your VPN running and
Yeah,
everything. But do your first learnings the way we're about to show you, with if this makes sense to you, on an
yeah,
Azure VM converted to this purpose, and then it's just super lightweight. You can access it from anywhere. You can start over. When you're done, you just delete it all in 2 clicks.
right. So
So
we're gonna assume you have a Windows VM running, right?
yeah, that's where we're
And
starting. We're starting
okay,
from this machine right here.
right.
If so, this is a virtual machine that has
Mhm.
just been spun up in Azure. I've taken care to do absolutely nothing to it, so it's just like you would get, have, uh, uh, if you spun up a new Windows server in
Mhm.
your subscription. And if we look at the extensions, I'm hoping it's going to be blank. It's supposed to be blank. I want, because in this case uh, we're not using the Azure VM Okay, that's fine. It has one extension installed. Amy, you know what that's for. I forgot
Right.
the password to this VM like 5 minutes before showtime. And again, power of Azure, power of the cloud, in less than 2 minutes I was able to recover. And it was using the extension to reset the password. So this extension is going to be harmless for our demo. But I wanted to show that I don't have a Microsoft monitoring agent. I don't have a Defender for Cloud agent. I don't have any extensions on this Azure machine because I'm using this Azure machine to just create a Azure Arc machine, and then the extensions for the Azure Arc machine are what I'm interested in.
Mhm.
So I've got a pinhole open for the IP that I'm at in the network security group of this machine.
Yeah, be
And he,
careful. Rod Trent's watching, and he's Mr.
I know.
Security.
Rod, are you out there? Hi, Rod. I'm
Yeah,
presenting.
Rod said Sentinel's all the good stuff.
Thank you. I'm presenting with Rod in Minnesota next week. God bless him.
Great. Yeah.
This little thing here prompting you to try out Windows Admin Center, that's kind of your tip that this is a brand new machine, right? And so being a machine in Azure, this machine has some things on it that we need to turn off. And there is a link to this website in the Learn module, and as well as the entire content of this page is in the Learn module as well, because the key part that we need is this code right here.
Mhm.
So we're going to run these two PowerShell commands in our machine in Azure.
So what is it essentially doing? Stopping the Azure VM
Well,
service?
there we go. The first thing it's
Okay.
doing, and you should recognize that you should recognize this
Guest agent.
service, right?
Yeah.
We saw it in the services list.
Mhm.
Boom. We just disabled it.
Boom.
So we've disabled it, and now we're going to stop it.
Mhm.
You can see that I am just pivoting. I'm cutting and pasting
Yeah.
from the document. That's what convinced me that this is actually pretty easy.
Yeah, if we write it for you, just copy paste.
And here's the commands in the Linux environment.
Linux, yeah.
There's the Linux daemon that I referenced. There's its name. And so depending on Windows or Linux, you choose the PowerShell or the Bash code, and then there's one more line, which is to block network
Oh, right.
access to the
Identity agents, because you're gonna install that
yes.
identity agent through Arc. It's gonna so it won't get confused.
There we go. So you can see this 169.254 address. That's an
Mhm.
address that's only accessible from Azure.
Okay.
And if this is like a tip, Azure machines and processes use whether they can get to that address or not to let them know whether they're in Azure or not. It's
Okay.
it's a tattletale. And so we block network access to that, and now the machine thinks it's not in Azure because it can't get to that IP. So stopping and disabling the guest agent, and then blocking network access
Mhm.
from the IMDS agent. That's all we need to do.
Mhm.
That's all we need to do. Um,
Yeah, now
that's
it's prepped to get onboarded, right?
now we're ready to install the Arc agent. Okay, so
Great.
that's it. This machine is now uh, it thinks it's not in Azure anymore. So now
Mhm.
let's deploy at scale. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open a Cloud Shell. I mentioned that, and what we're going to do in the Cloud Shell is we're going to create a service principal.
And that's so it won't ask us to log in a bunch of
Yeah.
times,
So
right?
I guess if let's go to our Azure Arc blade.
Mhm. You can tell it's live at least. Do, 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 do. There we go.
and we are going to onboard a server. So we go to servers add. And again, I said we were only going to talk about this for one quick second. And
Mhm.
we did a learn module the other day on this topic.
Right.
So you can see this happening live and in great detail, the single server method. Okay. But we are, and the single server method, what it does is it leverages your credentials as a
Right.
human doing this. And it has like a 3-step procedure where you
Mhm.
log in to Azure as yourself, as your user account. And then if you have the rights to your subscription to add the uh, the Azure Arc server, it happens, right?
Right.
Within your user name explicitly. So that's the difference, is that the script that gets created in this one prompts you to log in. We're going to do the script that doesn't prompt you to log in because you've seeded it with a service principal that has the authority to do it. So when we now here's the second article, and this again is linked from the learn, and you can see when one of the first steps to connecting Azure Arc servers at scale is to create the service principal. We're going to do that together now.
Sounds
And we're going
good.
to use the Azure PowerShell method. So
Mhm.
I've got PowerShell's stage to do what's right here. We're going
Great.
to do it in the command shell.
And again, that's so we don't have to log in and be interactive. We can onboard a bunch of machines at the same time.
Absolutely. The script that we're going to run one time could be run 1,000 times.
Right. Okay. I mean, you could do it one at a time.
Okay, so we're running the new Azure AD service principal command. We're giving it a display name, and we're specifying this security role. This is a very granular, very low privileged account
Mhm.
that can only do one thing. It can create new Azure Arc server records in the resource group that you've given it permission to do so. It can't do anything else. It can't delete them. It can't see whether ones are there already. All it
Okay.
can do is create new ones. So we've now created it,
It's
and
important to know.
we've stored that in a variable called SP. Now, if
Okay.
we just type SP, that's going to return the variable. So there we can see we've successfully created the service principal.
Great.
Now we need to lift the secret out of this, which we can do in this session.
Mhm.
Oh,
Oh. Password.
shoot. Well, let me go look. Let me look at mine. Let me
That's why
come
we have
here.
the learn module.
All right. Oops. Oh, wrong server. Oh.
Is it copying the whole command, or it looks like?
Well, gosh, I've only done this about 1,000 times. We can do it again. Let's do it again from scratch.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm doing it. I'm
Keep
taking.
time agnostic. If you want to get all the fun stuff covered, we got to make sure we're on time.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
Okay, just yeah.
Okay. So now I've. What? Okay, hold on.
This is important to see. This is real life. You might run into this.
Okay, what was happening there? I was running into the wrong command, the wrong
You're
window.
not in your cloud shell.
I
Said
wasn't in my
Ron
cloud
How.
shell. Yep.
There you go. Thank you,
Oh
Ron.
boy.
When you're presenting, it's like you're a little disjointed sometimes. There we go.
So did our output look like the output? It didn't.
Hmm.
I wonder if we're following the commands exactly from
Azure PowerShell.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, folks, the gremlins have struck.
Right.
Frankly, our output is not matching the documentation at Microsoft,
Okay.
which is a surprise. Again, I do this all the time, and I'm not, when I do create the role and I return the string, I don't see all this stuff. I
Right. You
only
should see
see
the secret.
I only see one line. So, gosh darn,
Well,
to sit to make the best use of our time. Imagine. Let's follow through with the online example.
right.
And when you do run these commands, you will get the service principal secret. So there will be a GUID, a password that looks like a GUID
Hmm.
will be returned on the screen. So my apologies, I don't know what to say.
It could be, yeah, Ron brought up another good point. It could be something between the version of AZ PowerShell module installed and the Cloud Shell versus what you might have on your PC. So,
I'm not using my PC. This is in Cloud Shell.
all right. Versus
And,
what you might install on your PC.
and it worked. It worked 2 days ago when we
Of course,
did
it
a
works
dry
when
run.
no one's watching.
So
So it
back
does
to the
work,
meat
we
at
promise.
hand. Let's go click through the generate script, and I'll show you where you would paste the information.
Okay. Yes, we promise it worked. It worked. The demo gods are just
No, I don't feel bad, honestly, because I'm not getting the return that it even says in the Microsoft doc is what you get. And
right.
I've done this literally hundreds of times. So either something has changed or something is temporarily foobar, right?
Right.
So we will continue. So when we choose to add multiple servers with Azure Arc, you have a few decisions to make. You need to choose the region that you're going to install them to. You need to decide whether you're going to be using a private endpoint or a public endpoint, and almost always you'll be starting with the public endpoint.
Hmm.
And it's very important that you choose a resource group. And I pre-created a resource group for our Azure Arc server, and it's generally recommended that you create a new resource group for several reasons. Is that you want to the service principal, that if we had been fully successful at creating it, we would have applied its security granularly to the resource group that we're going to put our Azure Arc servers in. So
Right.
that service principal that has the ability to create new Azure Arc servers, we
Hmm.
want to further restrict that account to only being able to create Azure Arc servers in a specific resource group, not in your entire subscription. So it's recommended that you scope that to a resource group, and so that's number one reason. And then number two reason is policy. I you can see my resource groups. I have a resource group named Azure Learn. That's where I put the Azure VM, the Azure VM that's our simulated Azure Arc server. I
Right.
didn't want it to have policies.
Hmm.
And but then the Arc group, I do want the Azure Arc server to get software, to get policies. So I have policies assigned to that resource group. So I've selected a resource group to be granular in scope security wise and to be granular in scope policy wise. And I would need to pick I need to pick that resource group at the
And
time.
right. It's good for lifecycle management too. You have all your, same eggs in one basket kind of thing.
Oh, now,
Um,
hey, the day has been saved. Look, Rod, because I've run this before,
The service principal.
It's aware that I've got a service principal there.
Oh, okay, cool. So it's
Okay,
gonna work.
I don't
Yeah.
think I don't think it's going to know the secret. I don't think it's
Oh,
going to
okay.
know the secret, but it's going to generate the script properly. Something I'll note, you're prompted when you create your Azure Arc service to optionally
Mhm.
put data center and city stuff in, and some customers find this extremely useful. The data center tag in particular
Oh, yeah.
is projected into the Azure Arc console views. And so
Mhm.
if you religiously populate the data center tag when you create and move your Azure Arc service around, it'll be very useful, right?
Yeah. Where is it coming from? Right. And
Uh,
just
eh,
cost center, I always like that too.
yes, absolutely.
Um, Tech girl Kristen mentioned it'd be good for us to troubleshoot while we're on this, but unfortunately, we're limited on time. I'd love to troubleshoot, but we have to get through the module. We have about 30 minutes left, so
So
gotta
I
speed up there.
I copied the at scale script to my clipboard, and I'll paste it in here. So this is the output, the customized output of the at scale script. So
Okay.
this is the important part, guys. Figure out the service principal. If the article that I used as a reference, again, if we this article also has the instructions on how to do it with the portal, right?
Right.
So if we had an extra 10 minutes, we could just create one from scratch using the portal, but we don't have
Right.
the extra 10 minutes.
Yeah, we
So
have about a half hour. So
even if these PowerShell instructions for some reason temporarily are not working, like they are temporarily not working for us right now,
right.
your fallback is right there. It's 8 steps in the GUI, and the out product is this script, and the only thing that's missing is the secret, which is only visible at the time that the service principal is created.
Mhm.
And this line right here is very important for your Windows servers 2016, Windows Server 2016 and earlier operating systems. This line is required for the script to work. It specifies what encryption protocol to be used for the initial SSL session. The information contained in this script, the service principal that you created will have the GUID associated with it and the secret associated with it, and uh, those two parameters appear down in here in the actual line. So this is this line of code is the meat of the code that will connect your machine, your on-premises or other cloud machine to Azure Arc. And it's got things in it like your tenant ID. It's got critically, the resource group that you selected, right?
Mhm.
So that's it. You're done creating the script. And at this point, if I had this value, if I was able to successfully run that PowerShell command earlier, I would have this value, and I would save this. I would save this script, and I would pop over here to my Azure machine, and I would run that script. I would copy the onboarding script.ps1 file, customized with that secret,
Mhm.
and I would run it.
Okay.
And I was planning on doing that live today, but you guys can do it on your own subscriptions. And with the script will run rapidly because it doesn't require any human input, and usually in under 1 minute after running that script, the server will appear in the Azure console as an Azure Arc agent.
All right.
Um,
Should we get on to the planning considerations for a secure configuration?
yes, please. Yeah,
Or
I have. I've lost control of my mouse. I really have. I really have, guys.
happy Friday.
Why don't why don't you take us back to the
Sure.
and let's cover what we
Yeah,
went
we're gonna have to
through.
kind of fast pace it if we're gonna get to the knowledge check. We might have
All
to.
right.
So planning considerations for a secure configuration, which you did go over. You can we have this fake company, Worldwide Importers. They're worried about security, so you configure your role-based access controls. Like you said, that role, that Azure Arc onboarding, it can only onboard servers. That's all it can do. So that's good to know. You can develop an Azure policy governance plan, make sure, whatever your strategy is for your company, that everything aligns. And then there's advanced networking options with the proxy server or the private link, which we'll go over for your Arc-enabled servers.
Yeah, when the private link option, that's if if your company has a policy that they're implementing Azure private endpoint and private link across the board to minimize or eliminate all exposure to public endpoints, then there is a capability to create a private endpoint for Azure Arc as well. So although the
Yeah.
general mode of operation is that every single Azure Arc machine reaches out directly over the internet to the back end of the service, there's also a capability to deploy an Azure Arc private link, which would have an endpoint in an Azure virtual network because if you have designed it this way, your Azure Arc machines will have network level access over private networking and virtual networking to get to that private endpoint, and they can register themselves in the Azure cloud without ever having any network traffic leave the protected and private networks.
That's great. So you don't have to worry about any data loss or corruption. Managed identity, we already went through that. So secure identities, policy governance. Again, we have those built-in compliance measures and security controls just
Yeah,
to
this is bringing all that benefit of the capabilities of
right.
Defender for cloud to your servers.
Mhm.
HIPAA, SOX, high trust, CMMC level 3. All of those regulatory compliance frameworks can be applied to your Azure Arc servers
I
perfectly.
love that because we used to always have to be HIPAA compliant, and you always think you have the most secure data center in the world, and but we do it at such a high scale, that there's so much great security behind you, whether you have 2 servers or 2, thousands. So yeah, I would go with Azure. And
There's
then this is,
there's our list.
yeah, there's a list showing, global governance there. And then that private link, I'd
That's
like
what
to know more
I
about that.
actually I jumped ahead. And that's what I was talking about.
Oh, okay, yeah.
For the
So
customer
beyond
that
being a
wants to
public endpoint, you
completely
can.
not ever use the public internet,
That's great.
there is a solution in this product for those customers.
So you just use the Azure backbone, which is high speed and it's encrypted, and then you're just talking through that.
Yeah, imagine that you have Express Route
Mhm.
connecting your corporate enterprise to your Azure virtual networks, and
Okay.
you would
Yeah.
create a Azure Arc private endpoint in
Mhm.
your VNet, and then your on-premise servers waking up in their VMware clouds or the physical servers over
Right.
your corporate backbone. They will find that route through Express Route up into Azure, and they'll register themselves.
Great. So yeah, here's a great diagram going over that, the secure networking over the private link.
Yeah, exactly. The Learn module has a diagram
Mhm.
demonstrating that.
But we're gonna kind of.
Yeah, the next section we've really covered, the
Oh, true. Okay,
deploying
good.
to a single server
Yeah.
and deploying to multiple servers.
Mhm.
The key things in the for the single server is that you have an individual person
Yeah.
that has the security RBAC role to add Azure Arc servers, which generally, if you have contributor or owner, if you're an admin of your organization, your account's probably gonna have the onboard Azure Arc server right by
Mhm.
virtue of being a contributor or owner. But maybe not. In a large organization, actually the people to do the testing need to be delegated the right to onboard Azure Arc servers
Exactly.
to the Azure Arc resource group that they're going to do.
Mhm.
And then the deploy to multiple servers method, it's identical. The script is identical, that except that the part that the one at a time script pops up and prompts you to log in, the @scale script feeds it that service principal,
Right.
GUID, and password.
Yeah, you're not logging into each server with the local admin root password, you know, whatever it may be. You have the service principal logging everything in for you.
Exactly. Yeah, when we go to the different methods, does it give the list? Because there was
Yeah,
one
with
I
the
wanted.
right, like how you deploy, you can, use PowerShell, DSC.
Did it have group policy listed?
Does not, but you can use group policy,
Yeah,
right? You
that's
can.
that's in the learning module. It's not
Oh,
in the
okay,
slide.
maybe.
And I wanted to share with people that's the recommended way that we recommend for large customers.
Okay.
If you have Windows Active Directory and you have a lot of Windows servers, there is a method to deploy the Azure Arc agent uh, with group policy using an immediate execution scheduled task. If you're
Oh,
familiar,
cool.
Windows servers have a task scheduler,
Right.
and there's a way to basically do a one-off, one-time executable. And you can search, do in your search engine, deploy Azure Arc Agent at scale using group policy. There's an
Mhm.
excellent article at Microsoft Docs on how to do it, and it works. We highly recommend it, and we've had customers deploy 800 Azure Arc servers in a few hours
Oh, that's great.
using the group policy method. It's very effective.
Nice. And you can just run now.
Exactly, and as the article mentions, you may have other tools like SCCM, MEM, Microsoft Endpoint Manager, or automation tools like Chef or Puppet. So
Okay.
the three official at-scale ways is group policy, using the Microsoft SCCM MEM tools, and
Mhm.
using general purpose scripting tools.
Okay. And then deploying to multiple servers. Well, here you go, group policy.
Yeah, okay. These slides are just not keeping up with us.
Right, you're ahead of the
So,
slides.
that slide is extremely valid, and I'd highly recommend people check out the group policy method.
Yeah. No, it was great to point out that you can also use automation tools, Chef, Puppet, Terraform, deploy the script, whatever you like. We're not forcing you to use one.
Hey, we just have one more module, the best
Oh, okay,
practices.
good. Because we're on time then. 'Cause I was
I
getting
told
scared
you.
a little
I
bit.
told you.
So we went over, the service principal, update management. You can connect through.
Oh yeah, this is actually a new one.
Yeah.
Uh, if you have already deployed uh, Log Analytics Agent in your environment, like let's
Hmm.
say you were an early adopter of Microsoft Sentinel or Azure Monitor, and you've already broadly deployed the Log Analytics Agent, and now you want to essentially upgrade. You want to go to the new model, which is Azure Arc driven,
Hmm.
right? So that there is, we covered this several times in the first slide. Remember, Azure Automation is a solution that installs into Log Analytics. And so if you have deployed the Log Analytics agent, and if you've got an Azure Automation instance integrated, because, for example, you're using the update management or the change detection features, there is a way using that to leverage that automation agent to push out the Arc, to
Hmm.
sort of change the wheels while your car's running. So it's an added advantage to customers that have got the Azure Automation Agent enabled on their servers is to
Right.
deploy Arc that way. That's actually a cool way.
Yeah. So we're on to the last module.
Yeah. So the best practices, it's talking about uh, um,
Let's see.
you know, when
Yeah.
I talk about organize your Azure Arc-enabled servers, the first thing that comes to my mind, and I already talked about it, is the resource group.
Yeah.
You
Resource
know,
group, tagging. Yes.
another thing that I should mention, since this is the Azure Arc at scale, is there is a limit of 5,000
Right.
Azure Arc servers per resource group. So that's a third consideration when considering, like, what resource group or how many resource groups should I select and prepare
Hmm.
for my Azure Arc servers. And another thing is, if you have more than 5,000 servers, you'll need multiple management groups. So imagine a worldwide company with 3,000 machines in North America, 2,000 machines in Europe, and 4,000 machines in Asia. it just makes sense that they would have 3 resource groups dedicated to Azure Arc servers in each of those 3 Azure regions. That would
Right,
be
different
a
regions.
logical. We have them geographically distributed because they are the machines are geographically distributed,
Exactly.
and you want to have your resource record for the Azure Arc server located generally in the same general geographic area as the physical server.
Mhm.
So that's a reason for the very large enterprise. It's a good idea to locate
Right.
your Azure Arc resource groups with where the machines are. So
Yeah.
if you for geography and for size, is
Mhm.
other reasons on how to organize your servers.
That's a good point. Yeah, so that's a good way. So plan that. Which region? Where are we gonna go?
The learn module has a thing on making sure that you have an alert rule.
Okay.
Ensure Azure Arc server connectivity. Is that I know if you just advance the slides,
Oh, yeah.
no, I guess there's the learn module under organize Azure Arc servers. It has an item on using creating an Azure monitor alert to let you
Okay.
know if the heartbeat on an Azure Arc server has failed.
Right.
And I highly recommend doing that as well. Maybe as if you're first getting started with Azure Arc and you get your first machine deployed and you're and it's reporting into log analytics, then to get your feet wet and to actually get use out of the product, create an alert that
Mhm.
lets you know that the machine is no longer heart beating, and there's instructions on how to do that.
Isn't the heartbeat like every 5 minutes or
It's every
so?
1 minute. It's
Oh,
every
every
1
1
minute.
minute. Okay.
Your Azure Log Analytics. Uh,
Oh, okay, okay.
mhm.
That makes sense. Great.
And then the last section, I think, before the knowledge check is called begin using Azure services. And it's
Mhm.
got an item there on tags,
Let's
which
see.
is very,
There we go.
again, is a very common and good use of the solution, is that you can
Mhm.
apply tags to your Azure Arc servers to say, you know, application, exchange, uh, you know, cost,
Yeah.
cost management,
Dev
HR,
environment.
marketing. Yeah, like
Right.
just go to town on the labels.
Yeah.
And it's again, that's another early effective use of the Azure Arc Agent at scale,
Mhm.
is take advantage of the ability to tag your Azure Arc servers to then manage them together. And then, if you're familiar with Azure, tags, once you've applied a tag to a resource, you can click on the tag and pivot to a list of all the resources with that tag.
Right.
And so in just like 2 clicks, you can have a tailored view of
Mhm.
all of the application servers or all the servers in Asia or all of the servers managed by a contractor. Apply tags for all of those scenarios, and you can rapidly create views that shift between your Azure Arc servers in that manner.
Yeah. Tagging is really important, and yeah, it kinda helps you create that, like, CMDB that no one ever gets to build, but at least you can start with tagging.
So we really did cover everything in the module, Amy.
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, even with the hiccups, I hope everyone got something out of this, and I learned a lot just going through this again. So, um, I do wanna get to the knowledge check so people can, um, collaborate with us and see. So we already said apply tags to help organize. You can use logs or log analytics workspace to collect data to help you do your update management. Azure policy for governance. Let's see. If there's anything else.
No, like I said,
Yeah.
I think the key takeaways for this lesson was to know how to create that service principal,
Mhm.
and then how to take that at scale script and put that service principal information in there. That's really the biggie. And then once you've done that, now use it.
Right.
Deploy Defender for Cloud, deploy automation, use apply tags. You know. And if you understand that those are if those are takeaways for you, we've done our job.
Right. And I believe you can put in your answers as well at aka.ms poll. I don't, yeah, here we go. So if you want to join along and play along, get some XP points, you can vote your decision at https aka.ms/polls or scan the QR code. So what do you think, John? Which of the following services can you not use with Azure Arc-enabled servers? Governance through Azure Policy and Guest Config.
We know it can do that.
Yeah. Security through Microsoft Defender for Cloud and Sentinel.
Oh, we know it can do that.
Right. Observability through Azure Monitor and Log Analytics.
Guys, we talked about all three of these things.
But D, deploy configurations using GitOps. Isn't that more of a Kubernetes?
Yeah, frowny face. We didn't even talk about that today.
Right. Nice.
Okay.
So let people get their votes in. Let's see. I'm gonna click. Let's see if anyone's joining us here. We got 2 votes. Yep, D. So I have a feeling that they are correct. Let's see. Click back on my slide. Good job. Go team. I think we get points for that. All right. Next question. Again, please participate. Which of the following actions does the Azure Connected Machine onboarding identity, and John went over this really well, what does it have permission to perform? Can it delete servers that are registered? Can it create new Azure Arc-enabled servers in Azure? Manage VM extensions for Azure Arc-enabled servers? Or read servers outside of Azure Arc-enabled servers within the resource group? That makes no sense whatsoever.
The Azure Connected Machine onboarding permission can do one thing.
Right.
One thing.
One thing only. What do we think, team? Are we thinking B? Looks like we're thinking B. Good job. I wish we had like fireworks or music, you know. Yay! Create new Azure Arc-enabled servers.
These are so easy.
Hopefully number 3. So well.
Hopefully number 3 will challenge us.
There you go. All right. Which of the following cannot be used to automate deployment of the connected machine agent to multiple machines? A, Azure Policy, B, Group Policy, C, System Center Configuration Manager, or D, Service Principal. So think closely. Sometimes they like to get tricky, you know, Azure Policy, Group Policy. So it cannot be used.
We know that Config Manager and Group Policy are 2 of them, because we saw that page.
Right.
So that it's either Azure Policy or Service Principal.
Right, because I would think you can't use Azure Policy till it's onboarded, right? I mean,
I think that's it. I think that's it. It's a chicken before the egg question.
Right.
And the outlier is Azure Policy, because until, well, actually, let's suspense. I don't want to give the answer.
Well, let's see. Azure Policy. Good job, everyone.
Yeah, until the machine is in Azure, until it has an Azure Arc object, Policy can't see it.
Right, it can't talk to it.
That's how we ruled that one out.
Right.
Fantastic.
Yeah, good job. So we understand Arc's built-in, security functions. You got Microsoft Defender, Sentinel, RBAC, and Policy. We attempted showing different ways of deploying. But you can definitely go through the Learn module to try it out yourself. It will work, I promise, mostly. And then applying best practices, like we said, for governance or, the tagging. Most companies have best practices or a governance model that they want you to follow. So we enable you to do that with Azure Arc as well. So would like to introduce our module after this, but if you want to learn more, again, you can go to this URL or scan that QR code and go along on yourself and play our video along with you to have someone to talk to. The next one was, this is still us. So again, thanks for joining. You can complete everything we did through the Learn module. You get XP if you do the whole module, you get you can eventually get badges and stuff, show off to your coworkers.
Amy, I got a $5 Starbucks gift
Did
certificate.
you actually like got something?
Yes,
You
I
just
mean,
got cool badges.
no,
Nice.
if you, I never paid attention to it for a long time, but then
Yeah,
finally I clicked on the thing, and it's like I had so many little points that I was able to you get a reward.
that's great. I want a $5 card. I gotta do
It
more
took a
now.
long time. It took a long time to get enough points for that. I would say in closing, Azure Arc at scale is something that everyone using the Microsoft stack, particularly right now, the Microsoft stack is hot for security. Right,
Right.
it's for connecting to Microsoft Sentinel, for connecting for Defender for cloud. That is a huge market, and very successful and popular and valuable.
Right.
And so everyone that's currently using that model is going to have to start using and participating in Azure Arc, because in 2024, we haven't talked about this, but in all 2024, the method of connecting to log analytics using only the log analytics agent is going to be superseded by the Arc method. So everyone has about 2 years to start using Arc, in order to connect their servers to Sentinel and Defender for Cloud and Azure Monitor. So it's something everyone needs to get smart on, and I'd encourage you to start sooner rather than later. I think
Definitely.
once you convert to using Arc and you're freed from having to manage the individual agents,
Mhm.
you're going to go, wow, this is already saving me time and labor. So
Great.
and you're future proofing yourself
Right.
for beyond 2024.
Well, that's always nice too.
Hmm.
And then, yes, we're not the only part of this series. There's more coming up for you. So integrate Azure Arc and Azure Stack HCI, May 5th, 10:30 to 12 Central Europe time. So you can continue learning on this Azure Hybrid Cloud Study Hall. It's been a lot of fun with joining you, John, during this journey. Um, I'm glad. Thanks for everyone who came in and gave us questions and helped us troubleshoot even. So thanks so much for joining. And don't miss the next in the series.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you all for
Thanks,
coming.
John. It was great. Say bye.